My name's Toby Astill. I work for PerkinElmer, Senior Business Manager for the Cannabis and Hemp Markets. Thank you. PerkinElmer is 81 years old. It's an American company that has presence across the globe. And it's a company focused on producing instrumentation for human and environmental health. On the environmental side, the division I work with, that includes nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, food and beverage, and also cannabis testing, and the instrumentation required in those testing labs. Definitely. PerkinElmer produces the hardware, but it also provides the training for the lab technician or analyst to run that test successfully to meet either the state regulatory needs or the production QA/QC requirements. These tests are varied depending on what chemistries someone would like to look at in the cannabis material. But to give you an example, they range from pesticides, heavy metals, residual solvents, terpenes, moisture. The list is quite long, but within that list, there's a number of different techniques and chemistry instrumentation that you can use to successfully look down to very, very low levels, such as parts per billion. So one of the more challenging methods or tests for cannabis, but a very important one, is testing for pesticides. Not all growers use pesticides, we appreciate that, but there are environmental influences. Crops being grown next to a cannabis field, sometimes there's carryover, or sometimes there's residual pesticides left in the soil or the materials that they use to grow the cannabis indoors. So PerkinElmer provides instrumentation for taking that sample out of the field, out of the grow environment, preparing it to the necessary state that it can be analyzed and tested in a cannabis lab for pesticides. And because the lists for pesticides are varied, because not one regulatory body has standardized, each state determines the level, how low they want to look for, and also the type of pesticide that they test for. So PerkinElmer is working with each state, the countries that are also testing for pesticides, such as Canada, to make sure we have a turnkey ready method, hardware, and support for that lab. California, where we are today, is an exciting space because it has a very structured set of tests for cannabis. The pesticide test is also very comprehensive, so a lot of my extended team is working very diligently to make sure we're offering the most compliant, ready support and hardware for this market. My role is a unique role for PerkinElmer. I joined this particular initiative a few months ago in 2018 because of this really growing market across the globe. My location is the West Coast, Canada, but I cover North America and Canada extensively, and I'm also working with our extended partners and divisions around the globe as the legalization and the markets open up for cannabis, particularly coming out of Canada. So countries like Germany, New Zealand, Brazil, Uruguay, all have now export-import markets, and a lot of business is coming out of Canada. So I split my time between both countries a lot right now. That's a very good question based on Canada going recreationally legal later this summer and the regulatory limits still being confirmed. But from the data and the reports we've seen coming out of the Health Canada Bureau that's organizing and structuring the cannabis regulations, they are a very conservative detection limit list. So I mean the levels are very low. So they have human health, patient health as a top priority. So the levels are very low, which does mean a very challenging test potentially in the lab. We're confident that we can do it, but it's an exciting time for us to be working in the field in our labs in Canada to make sure once that list is finalized that we can do it. A good analogy is looking at the California list, which is similar. So a lot of work over the last 12 months has been done to really perfect that method. So we're leveraging that team to move up and help the Canadian team meet the Canadian requirements shortly.